One word to describe last year would be disappointment. We were just getting started practicing for spring show. We had come off of winning 2 competitions, and so we didn't get to end our year the way we had planned to. So my word to describe last year would be disappointment.
Last year, in one word, unfinished.
Uneasy.
One word to describe last year I think would be confusing. Confusing because I was new to Bryan, new to Davila, new to Apple, new to using Google in the way that we use it here in Bryan, new to teaching on more than one campus. There's a lot going on, but I had great support and it turned out well.
All right, here we go. Question number 1. What?
One word to describe last year would be unexpected.
One word describing last year is adaptive.
I had one word to describe last year. That would be challenging.
A word for what happened last year: unexpected.
Stress would be a word that I would use to describe last spring. One word to describe last year would be hectic.
One word I would use to describe last year is uncertainty.
The one word that I think I would use to describe last year would be overwhelming.
One word that I would use to describe last year would be growth.
I am most nervous for next year when it comes to planning. I know that us teachers, especially extracurricular activities that we teach, we like to plan weeks in advance. So we're not going to have that amount of time to plan for it, and things are always going to be changing. So I am most nervous for the planning aspect when it comes to thinking about next year.
The biggest challenge for me is how to keep the in-person students and the online students in sync with each other so it allows for smooth transitions back and forth for them and for us.
I am nervous about getting the virus and passing it on my students. I think the biggest challenge is not giving my students a hug when I see them next time.
What am I nervous about this year? I think this year I'm very concerned about social distancing in the classroom. My AP has given us some great alternatives, and I think it will work, but I am concerned.
Question number 2. I'm concerned about teaching face-to-face and online at the same time and being able to keep them both up to the standards I set for myself.
I'm nervous about going into the new year because it feels like every answer has 6 questions attached to it. More things we don't know or haven't figured out yet or will have to change on the fly. I think one of the big challenges of next year will be adapting as plans change, as the situation changes, and as students come in and out each 6 weeks from going online to back in person.
Some of the things I'm nervous about going into this year are safety and health concerns for myself, coworkers, and students. And some of the challenges that seem big, something kind of looming over, is the idea of trying to make sure that these students online are receiving the exact same thing as students in class with the same success rate. I'm sure is something that is definitely plausible. I guess just the idea without experiencing it yet seems like it might be a little challenging.
If I was nervous about this year, the challenge is going into this year, I think it would just be the unknown. Not sure what we're gonna do or what it's gonna look like, so that's always a little scary.
I'm not really nervous about anything particular. I'm just concerned about everyone's safety and hoping everything goes well. My biggest challenge, teaching beginning orchestra students online. And just making sure that everything works and we figure it all out.
The new year will bring challenges for concerns for my students and my own personal safety, the challenges of teaching online and face-to-face.
What I feel the biggest challenge facing us is the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic.
I think the biggest challenge for this year is going to be maintaining the environment where students can connect with one another and connect with their teachers, but also
keeping them at a safe distance so that safety is our number one priority.
What am I most nervous about this year? I think I'm most nervous about finding time to be both an in-class and online teacher.
Something that I am nervous about for this year is just ensuring the safety of my students, but also ensuring that they feel safe and they feel comfortable with this school year, given that so many things are changing and our expectations have shifted for them and their behavior at school. So I really hope that they have a good school year. I also worry about the health of some of our educators and the unification that we might have this year with so much change happening as well.
For me personally, in order for me and my students to have a successful year, I am going to make sure that I communicate. I'm going to communicate with my other dance teachers in the district. I'm going to communicate with my fine arts director, my principal, my parents, and most, of course, my students. As soon as I'm given information, I'm going to make sure that they are the first to know those things, so that way they are in the loop as much as I am.
To have a successful year, I have to keep in mind that this year is completely different, and I can't do the same stuff that I've been doing. I have to be very flexible and very considerate of every situation that happens and just be flexible.
I'm going to stay positive, spread as much cheer as I can, and make sure I stay clean my hands, or wash my hands, sanitize, and keep everything I have clean.
I think this year I'm going to plan a little differently, plan more. My personal word this year is intentional. So I'm going to intentionally plan in ways that'll bring about different responses for my students and for myself this year.
Question number 3. Keep smiling and do what I always do, the best I can with what I got. That hasn't changed at all.
Personally, to be the most successful that I can be, I am going to prepare as well in advance as I can, make sure that everything is ready to go with some backup plans too, and try to stay positive and flexible.
What I'm going to do personally, I'm going to have a growth mindset, one that is going to be okay with trying different things, learning different things, and prepared to do different things.
Some things that I personally plan to do to be successful this year, first, as safety concerns go, is to make sure that I'm always being fully protected, and of course making it abundantly clear to students the importance of the safety of themselves and others in the room and throughout the campus. And as far as success of teaching and curriculum, just making sure that there is a good amount of training provided by the school and just research done by myself on teaching during trauma and traumatic times for the students, being open-minded to some of the difficulties that they come across while still introducing the material and having, expectations of successful learning.
What am I going to do personally to have a successful year? I've got to be positive. Our kids need this positive feelings from us more now than ever at this time of their lives. And so we just have to do that. We just have to be positive. I have to be positive.
One of the things that I believe that I can do to help myself is to keep myself healthy, plenty of rest, eat well, vitamins, those kind of things, and staying organized to be able to help me personally throughout this new teaching year.
Sanitize to the best of my ability and try to make it a safe environment.
For me personally, to have a successful year, I'm going to stay anchored and grounded in my faith and the belief that everything is going to work out and to be just fine, and that even though this year might not be normal for us, we'll come out on the other side better. So for me, staying positive and remembering what's important, that's what's going to help me get through this year.
I think stay focused on the job at hand, Just make sure I don't let the little things that are obviously going to come up, or even big things that are going to come up, bring me down, because that's just going to happen, and I got to stay focused.
Something that I'm going to do to encourage my own success is daily check-ins with myself. I know we're doing our check-ins health-wise, but I think it's also important to check in and see how we're feeling emotionally so that we can be better prepared to go and help our students feel safe and feel comfortable. It's important for us to feel that way too.
In order for my students to be successful, I'm going to make sure that I am creating lesson plans that are differentiated for them, for at-home learning, for in-person learning. I'm going to make sure that they are interesting, so that way they're invested in the lessons. I know that at the end of the last 6 weeks back in the spring, I was losing students who weren't turning in assignments, so making lessons that seem interesting to them so that way they are involved in some sort of dance throughout the year. I'm also going to be understanding and sympathize with them. I know that we are all in the same situation with the world right now, so I'm going to make sure that they know that I'm a person that they can come to even if they are at home learning.
I'm going to make sure that all of my students have a successful year by celebrating every accomplishment, big, small, huge, large, whatever it is. There's going to be a ton of high fives given this year. Well, virtual high fives, air high fives, that type of stuff.
By helping them be safe and feel safe with me as their teacher. Making them feel safe is the best way, I think, a student can grow.
Given these circumstances, I think I will be more mindful of the students and what they need and where they're coming from, whether they're online or in class. I'm going to use good things more in the classroom. I am going to use journaling in a different way this year to help bring about student choreography, which may help them out personally.
I fully believe my students are going to be as successful as I expect them to be. So I set the bar high, and we'll deal with the curveballs and the roadblocks as they come. And again, this is no different than any other school year.
I'm going to do my best to ensure success for our students by encouraging them to stay flexible, by being positive and have as much communication with them about changes as I can, and still trying to make theater a fun and safe place for them.
I'm going to make sure my students are successful just by doing my job, being creative, and fulfilling the things that they need.
Is using my years of online training and online teaching experience to really help those develop that are picking the online platform, and continuing to do what I've done in past years in face-to-face classes to give my students the best instruction and the best knowledge and experiences that I can with what we are allowed and able to do this school year.
It's going to be baby steps. I need to figure out where they are when they come in, especially the incoming freshmen at Rudder. Success is going to probably look different this year. It may not be the ultimate goal of the greatest score at contest or a big, huge concert, but more like small steps of, hey, I got that 3 octave scale goal, or I can play this new technique. Just little steps. And I'll find myself, I'll be definitely working with colleagues more, going back and reviewing information I obtained from online trainings this summer, and more individual one-on-one lessons with kids, especially my kids that are going to be virtual right now.
As I motivate to grow relationships with my students and my colleagues around me, I hope to see my students progress. It usually happens as long as I build relationships with them, and that would be with my colleagues also. I would want to encourage them to do well in the fine arts because that was what they chose for their elective, as I teach 6th grade, so they come to me each day. And my other thing that I really want them to have is a love for art, but I also want them to learn to advocate for themselves because it's of utmost importance as a lifelong skill for them growing into adulthood.
So I'm going to try to make theater fun and safe.
Make sure that our students have a successful year. I think it's important to build in opportunities to gauge how they're doing, how they're handling the stress and the uncertainty, and give them an outlet where they can express what they're going through and know that it's a safe place.
Same way as always, accommodate each kid or child as well as possible. And same thing as before, don't let the little things bring me down, and stay focused on them.
Something that I will do to help my students is check in with them as well and use art as a vehicle to help them maybe process some of what's going on and help them have an outlet. I would love to create collaborative artwork with them that they would create, in their own classroom units, and then it would be assembled to put all of their artwork together to show that though we might be somewhat isolated, we are still very much a community that works together and grows together.
And one word to describe my hope for this year would be normalized. We are living in a new norm, and I just hope that my students kind of find some normalcy within the new norm. And with all of my lesson plans and all of the planning that I am able to do, I hope that they can see that and that we are just able to have a great year.
My hope for this year in one word is legato, as in smooth and connected.
This year, I'm going to stay positive.
Shine. I'm going to be mindfully deliberate to make everything positive, which the end result will be a beautiful rainbow shining.
Be flexible.
One word to describe my hope for next year would be opportunities.
Courage, because I think that's what it's going to take.
One word that describes my hope for this year is safety.
A word for the end of it to start this year: survive, but not only survive, but to thrive.
My faith. That's what will get me through.
I guess hope.
My one word for this year is going to be family, because I know that the challenge for us this year is going to be how to connect the students and how to connect students to us and to each other without being able to do our normal things. And so I want the kids to know that even though it's not normal, we're still a family and we're still here for each other and we still love each other, and that it's going to be okay.
One word that of hope for this year, I think, would be clarity. Maybe in the end of all this, we'll have some kind of clarity.
Something that I hope for this coming year would be strength.